All right, so we're live.
Fantastic.
So today I'm joined by my dear friend Bianca. Bianca and her sister are the founders of the Big Sister Experience, which is a social enterprise committed to helping improve the lives of the next generation of Australian girls. So I guess welcome.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. I'm excited to have you on today for a few reasons. Firstly, you're a good friend of mine and I love chatting to you. Secondly, I just find the work that you do so important. You know, my oldest girl, I've got two girls. My oldest girl is now 7. And of course, with the line of work that I'm in, I'm ever increasingly interested in, my children's developmental environment and how that will go on to affect them for their life.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly important, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. I guess before we get into all of the amazing stuff in the Big Sister Experience and all of the stuff that you cover, the issues that you're out to combat, let's hear a little bit about yourself.
Where to start answering that question?
Born and bred in Melbourne.
Born and bred in Melbourne. 31 years old. After I finished high school, I did a Bachelor of Business and was working in events management for a couple of years and just really didn't feel any fulfillment whatsoever. And thought it was quite a competitive industry, and I don't have a competitive bone in my body. So it just I wasn't getting any satisfaction. So teaching had always been something that I was open to. So went back and did my Masters of Teaching, and started primary school teaching. I taught for 8 years, went and lived in London for a couple of years there and did some teaching over there, which was a massive eye-opener as well. And then I think that was where the shift happened. When I was in London, I came back and I did some relief teaching for a while and then got my own class, and I just thought there's got to be more. There's got to be a different way that I can make a change in these kids' lives, and give myself greater fulfillment as well. So that was, I think, London was the catalyst, because I was out in the world and I was exploring and I was traveling and I was meeting new people. So then I came back to the classroom and I was like, is this it? Like, is this going to be my forever? So, yeah.
So what's, obviously a lot's changed since you left the teaching world. Was there anything in particular that you weren't sort of aligned with or resonating with, or that you saw issues with?
Definitely. So for the first few years, I loved teaching. I was bouncing in my bed. I was like going into the classroom and just absolutely loving it. But I think over the 8 years that I was teaching, there was a real shift towards all this extra pressure and paperwork and accountability, and prove this and photograph yourself doing that and set that goal and make sure that's achieved by the end of term. And for me, teaching was always about the connection and the relationship. And I found that just with all this politics and paperwork, I wasn't actually getting time to just sit with my students and connect and have those real world conversations, which was at the heart and center of my teaching pedagogy. So there came a point after London, I was in the classroom and I remember having so many days where I'd just be in tears and I'm just like, this is just wrong. Like, our focus is so wrong right now. So that definitely was the motivation I needed to kickstart the whole venture.
I love that. And I think it's really important right now to acknowledge the work that teachers do, because I know when I went through school, and certainly the role that schooling plays in our society right now, teachers make or break a student's experience, particularly at younger ages. You know, a really good teacher can really make a big difference on students, particularly when they start to fall behind or they feel like they don't fit. You know, it's
Yeah,
the teacher is the glue that makes all of that work when it seems at times that sometimes the system is failing certain children.
100%. Yeah.
So I think acknowledging the work that teachers do, and that you know, I would say the vast majority of the teachers that we have do the best that they can, you know, within the system.
Mm.
Um, so what happened? So what changed then? You went off and did some soul searching. You did some.
Yeah, so it's funny the road that I've taken. So I actually, when I was in London, I started a blog. Just I really have always enjoyed reading and writing, and I started a blog as a way to journal more than anything, just the adventures that I was having and where I was going. And so when I came back and I started teaching, I thought, well, I'm not I'm not traveling any longer, and I'm not, you know, having all these adventures, but I still really enjoyed the creative outlet of writing. So I started a blog documenting my adventures as a single woman in Melbourne. So basically just started blogging about my feelings, my experiences, the dates that I was going on, the men that I was meeting. And then, you know, people started reading it and they started enjoying it and saying, you know, I've got this story and I've got that story. So then I started blogging about, I'd do an interview with someone and I'd share their dating story.
Yeah.
So this was all happening while I was teaching. And then I got approached by a guy and he was like, oh, have you ever thought of doing a podcast? Because I think your content's really funny and it would translate well. And at that time, I had no idea what a podcast was. He's like, it's like a radio show, but you just record it. And I was like, okay, like it sounds kind of fun. So it was me, it was my sister and a friend of ours who's very quick-witted and funny. And we sort of got together and started a weekly podcast, which was absolutely hilarious. You know, three single girls and their dating escapades. If you're wondering where you can find it, you can no longer find it. There is no trace of that podcast anywhere. So yeah, that basically started off. And then as that was progressing, I was simultaneously getting really frustrated with the school system and my trying to find my place in it and just feeling overwhelmed by the pressures that were being placed on me, which didn't match the satisfaction I was getting from the classroom. So I just thought, I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to try and get into coaching, like coaching single women. And that's where Josh, you and I started our journey together. We'd met at a business mentoring group, and that was probably the most transformational year of my life. Starting that journey and recognizing, you know, my shortcomings and my belief systems and my stories and why my life had manifested in the way that it had manifested. And I was completely, we'd always been a family where, you know, we were raised to, you know, think positively and, you know, karma and be a good person and all this. But I was just exposed to a whole new level of consciousness that was really just transformational in my journey.
Yeah. And I think it's important, you know, to recognize that work was with Co and Ray's K to Elite. Like, it was an amazing community and we both got so much out of that. So
both personally, and I credit the success of the Big Sister experience that we've seen in the 1 year that we've launched. I credit that very highly to the work that I did at Co and Ray, both personally and to lay the foundations for the business.
Yeah, definitely. And at what point did I'm interested, this partnership that you have with Crits, right? You seem to be quite an explosive combination there in this movement. What happened to spark that? I mean, I guess you've always had that relationship as sisters. You've always been close.
Always. Yeah.
At what point was that? Did that union come on board in terms of the Big Sister experience?
Yeah. So what happened when I was doing my dating coaching? I was doing live events, and what happened? One event we had a couple of girls came that were like 18, 19, and they were quite young for my sort of target market. And the dating coaching wasn't gaining the traction that I had sort of hoped that it would, and it came to light that there was a whole bunch of reasons why that happened. But basically, we spoke to these two girls, and Krit's always being by my side. We said, you're quite young for the market that we're capturing. Did you take anything from that? And they were like, yeah, we loved it. It was, we can't turn to our parents for this kind of dating advice. And for us, it's like the blind leading the blind. And that conversation, Chris and I were driving home, and we were like, do you know what? Maybe instead of trying to fix these women who are in their 30s and who are jaded and cynical and bitter about the dating scene, what about if we, because Chris is a classroom teacher as well, what about if we try and prevent, do an early intervention thing? So when the Big Sister experience when we first thought of that, it was almost meant to be like a bit of a dating thing for girls to find their confidence and find their feet in the dating world. But then the more we workshopped it, the more we spoke to our contacts in schools, the more we realized that there was so much more at the heart of the issue of people not being able to find a compatible match. It was all about self-love and self-acceptance, self-confidence, which is really the heart and soul of the work we do at the Big Sister experience. And when we were having that conversation on the drive home, there was just no doubt that it was a project that we needed to do together, because we are so, so different. And we've always been compared to each other growing up. We've always been, Kritz is the strong one and Bianca's the emotional one. But over the journey that we've had with the Big Sister experience, like, we've realized that is our superpower, the fact that we just complement each other so perfectly. It's just a powerhouse. Like, when you're on the same mission, it's like we're both bringing our skills to the table.
Yeah, and good luck to any men who choose to date either of you.
Yeah,
no,
we're working on it.
no, I mean that with love. I want to take you back to a few things. I love that you found where you're at now by following the breadcrumbs, and you hit some little dead ends along the way, and then you stopped at each point and you listened and you followed that path. And you followed what was true to you in terms of, this whole time you've wanted the same thing. You've wanted to help people.
Yes.
At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And, as you started to walk that path, the path led you off in different directions, and you saw you followed the path where you could help people the most. And that's where you are now.
Yeah.
And, it makes sense that you ended up back working with younger girls to tackle these core issues, which you talk about 100%: self-worth, self-care, self-love, essentially everything to do with acceptance of self. So I love that. I also want to take you back to the work that you did before in terms of your journaling, your podcast. One thing you've always done is you've always been, and you laugh about it now, but you've always been really authentic.
Yeah.
Right? You've always been courageous. You've always chosen to speak up about things that not everyone wants to speak about. And the underlying intention of that has always been to empower people
100%.
to deal through that ickiness of things that people that hold people down, right? And it's the heart and soul of that intention that you've always had, which now that you're finding areas that you can have a bigger impact, it's that's making this movement dynamite. And I just want to give you full credit to the heart and soul that you put into this work, because it's so important.
Thank you. And I think, to be honest, I think that's been one of the most vital keys in the success of the Big Sister experience, because Chris and I get there and we stand in front of the girls, and it's never a, do this, don't do that. It's a, hey, this is who we are standing in front of you. This is our journey. You know, between the two of us, we have depression, we have anxiety, we have a history with an eating disorder, we have an abusive relationship. We stand up there very authentic, very vulnerable, very real, and just say, this has been our journey and we want to talk about it with you. And we want you to feel free to ask any questions, and nothing is off limits. So yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. That's the key. That's just how I've always operated. And I think that's been one of the most crucial points of the Big Sister experience and what we're all about.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's go a little bit to the work that you do. So, share with me, obviously your business has been affected due to the lockdown, but outside of that, share with me what your main products and
yeah. So the Big Sister experience, basically we call it a 3-point program. So the first point is working with the girls, both in schools and in the community, in the form of live face-to-face workshops. And that's just our favorite thing to do, you know, to actually get in amongst it with the girls. And we tailor create programs to work with the needs that a school is seeing, because we're finding, you know, as we all know, geographically, depending on where you go, there's different issues that present themselves. So that's the first point. The second point is that we work with families and educators just to ensure continuity, and that we're all on the same page. There's no point telling the girls that it's really important to practice self-care and gratitude, and then mum and dad are, you know, not making time for it, not being supportive, or the teachers not being supportive. So the work that we do with the families and the teachers is super important. And we also do mother-daughter and father-daughter events, which is just a really beautiful, they're one of our favorite things to do as well, just really fostering connection between parents and their daughters. And the third and final point is our online program. So currently we're offering a 4-week and a 12-week online course. And this just allows us to go a little bit more deeper. You know, we cover things like female health, how to have courageous conversations, just more sort of practical advice that the girls can use to navigate the challenging teenage years. So that's basically the offerings that we have at the moment.
So your online, what age groups is your online course for?
So the online course is for teenagers. So we say 13 to 18.
Okay.
And the face-to-face workshops, they can start, we don't go younger than grade 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the online stuff, you know, we spoke that a lot of this stuff comes down to their sense of self-love, self-care. Are you dealing with, you know, the less talked about side of, you know, sex, drugs, all of that stuff?
Yeah, we talk a lot about consent and what does it mean to give consent. And, you know, we share stories. You know, there's been times where we've changed our mind, or we're all of a sudden not feeling comfortable, and, you know, the courage that it takes to say no. And we link that all back to self-love. It's about finding your voice. And I think the thing that we're most proud of with our workshops, it's not an abstract conversation about, you know, self-love. It's, okay, how do we practice self-love? Self-love is saying no to your friend. Self-love is, you know, when your friend asks you if you like their new outfit, using your voice in a way that is not going to offend her, or that you can be true to yourself, saying, you know, it looks great on you, I can see it makes you happy, but it's not really my taste. And while these examples sound silly, these are the muscles we need to train our girls to start using. So when we are talking about sex, they have the confidence to say, no, stop, I don't like that, I don't want to do that. So these are the kind of, this is the philosophy, I suppose, that we use. It all really interlinks to that strong sense of self and using your voice for what is right for you.
Yeah. And so obviously the first pillar, the in-school workshops, they are with selected age groups. So all the girls that fall into that age group go into that, or is it?
It really depends. So we really pride ourselves on the fact that we can work in with with your needs. We've gone to schools, like rural schools who are really small, who we've got the whole school together and there's 100 of them. And we've worked with massive schools that they'll say, okay, you're going to have the year 9s in the morning and the year 10s in the afternoon.
Okay.
So, and obviously depending on that, we'll create something appropriate for the ages that we'll be working with.
Okay, cool. So you're tailoring your programs to the groups
Exactly.
and obviously the age groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So what are, let's just go to what, in your opinion, what are the biggest issues that we're seeing in society now for young girls
Yeah, I think that, the statistics are telling us that anxiety is the number one burden of disease for young girls. Anecdotally, I 100% agree. It is almost reaching epidemic proportions that we're seeing these girls suffering from this anxiety. And I think there's a few factors. I really believe that there's a lot of mirroring going on, that us as adults, and you know what, this pandemic that we're in is such a great example. We had a webinar last night and we were trying to explain the concept of mirroring. And I was saying, think back to the first few weeks of this pandemic and you go into the supermarket. I like to think I'm quite cool, calm and collected, but I went into the supermarket and there's nothing in the shelf and there's people panicking, wheeling their trolley around. And all of a sudden you sort of start to feel that unease, that like what's sort of going on. Maybe I'll grab an extra packet of pasta or maybe I'll do this. And that's the mirroring that we're seeing in this pandemic. That I believe plays a part in the anxiety that we're seeing in young girls. Parents suffering from anxiety, stressed out with work. They're trying to run a family, they're trying to cook, they're trying to clean, they're trying to, exercise and do everything. And so our children are feeding off that anxiety. I also think that social media plays a massive part. And studies are showing us that boys and girls are using social media differently. Boys are using social media for gaming and that kind of thing, whereas girls are using it to socialize. So this is where we get comparison. This is where we get, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I don't have a good enough relationship with my mum. Whatever that is, it's that sense of comparison that's putting pressure on, that's leading to this anxiety.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I just got a mental block. I was just going to say something. And again, like you said earlier, it all stems back to, that comparison is the next form of manifestation of that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough,
exactly.
Relationship to self. How are you finding parents' input in terms of the work that you're doing to get, I know that you're big on first of all, creating a safe space and just bringing all this stuff up, being open, vulnerable and saying, this is how it is, these are some of the things that go on, and just sort of opening that up.
Yeah.
Right. From there, I know that there's a lot of stuff that you work on around journaling, self-care practices, to foster healthy mindsets, to exercise those muscles as you discussed. What are you finding is the general sort of input from parents, in just from the way you see it? Are parents on board with that?
So I think generally speaking, parents want the best for their kids. And I truly choose to believe that. We get a little bit of disconnect where parents are like, I really want my child to be able to come to me and I really want to support them and I really want to be there for them, but they're not coming to me. And then we're working with the girls and they're saying, I really want to share this with mum and I really want to have that relationship with dad, but I don't know how to approach it. So there's this disconnect happening. And I guess that's where we see our role come in as well, to facilitate this connection and to open up the conversation so that this connection can happen. And, that's the general gist of what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of parents contact us through our social media or whatever it might be and saying, I need help. Like, I need help connecting with my girl, or I need help supporting her through her anxiety. So I do believe we are seeing a very supportive parent community, but it's just somehow this disconnect has happened where they're not actually, that the intention's the same from both sides. We don't know how to achieve that.
Yeah. I feel like you've just hit a major pillar, and I love that, because it all comes back to that connection. And I'm presuming that this is how the mother-daughter and the father-daughter workshops were born, to tackle this directly.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is amazing. So tell me a little bit more about those workshops, because I love the idea of it.
Yeah, it's so great. It's this, the transformation that we see over 3 hours. It's just like the heart and soul of what we do. We'll see girls come in and they're like, they're sitting like this and they've got their headphones and they don't want to be anywhere near their mum. But yeah, basically it's just, we talk about what is connection? Why is connection important? Regardless of how it's manifesting, your mum wants the best for you. Your mum loves you unconditionally, and she's here. You are here because of your mother's love for you. And we get up. It's a workshop. We get up and we talk about body image, and we talk about we encourage mothers to take accountability. How do you talk about your body? How do you talk about the other women in your life? Are you leading by example? And there's always tears, and it's emotional, and it's heavy, but the joy at the end when you see all of a sudden that girl with her headphones out, hugging her mum. And we do some really beautiful exercises that feel uncomfortable. They've told us at the end that felt really uncomfortable to look in my mum's eyes and hold her hands and tell her why I love her. But if you can do that in an environment where I'm going to make you do it, and you're going to come out the other side and you're going to love it, just to see that transformation. We've had, mums write into us days or weeks after those events just saying wow, thank you for breaking down that initial barrier. And I'm like, you did the work. I love it. That's witnessing that transformation, and to then know that initial barriers down, for them to then start to build that open and honest communication between them. That's so magic.
Yeah, I love that. And at the end of the day, the C word, connection, it all comes back to that, doesn't it? I mean, it's been well documented for a long time now that the basis of most addiction is driven by a lack of connection. And a lot of what we call socially destructive behavior is driven by a lack of connection. So
I'd go one step even further than that, and taking the words of Brené Brown, vulnerability is the key to connection. So when we do any workshop, especially with the mothers and daughters, we get the mums to tell the story of their biggest heartbreak. Tell the story of your biggest disappointment. Tell a time when you felt anxious, when you felt depressed, when you felt let down. We need to let our children see us, all of us, all, not just the good bits. And that's what we talk about with the parents that we work with. They feel like they can't come to you with their anxiety or their heartbreak or their sex issue or their drug issue, because they see you as someone who's got it all together and who is happy and who doesn't cry in front of them and who doesn't talk about their disappointments. So if we can be vulnerable and say, what, today I had a really crappy day, but I'm grateful for this moment in that day. Or what, the way that your father behaved tonight really just has really hurt me and really let me down, but I'm going to talk about it in this way with him. We need to be vulnerable with our kids. It's not a weakness. It's such a gift that we can give to them, to show them the full complexities of how, the scope of emotions as a human.
Yeah. I love that. And just to add to that, how much do you find that, I guess sharing my own experience and what I tend to see, our children tend to poke all of our unhealed wounds. You know,
Yeah.
it's no different to our intimate partner. It's the same. It's the same setup. But I think the moment that we realize that all of these points that these children push on us are abilities to heal.
Yeah.
It completely changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
And I love that you've brought up vulnerability, because of course we've got to let that guard down. We've got to, you know, the connection is, let's face it, an energetic and an opening of planes that we don't always see in the physical world. You know, there's more to us as beings than, you know, we're not robots where we see, hear and feel and experience all sorts of things. And you know, the importance of that, the importance of how we use our conscious awareness in terms of connecting with people, you know,
Yeah.
is something that's probably not talked about enough.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting what you said about, you know, when we get our buttons pushed, that's an opportunity to heal, because that's something that we share with the girls as well. When we do our workshops with the girls, there's always tears and there's always, you know, discomfort, and we do challenge and we do stretch them and we hold space for them. And we say, you know, if you are being triggered right now, if this is making you feel really uncomfortable, if you are crying, if there is something happening within you right now, that is such a gift, because that's something that you need to heal. And we are here for that exact purpose. And we, you know, we're here to talk about it. We're here to cry about it with you. We're here to hold you while you feel whatever it is that's coming up for you. And it's interesting because often a lot of times we've learnt that the schools that you go into and they just bang, put a wall up, like they're sitting there with their arms crossed, they got their headphones in, they're the ones that really need it. Like they're the ones that are, the ego's coming in straight away, like, oh, this is potentially going to be, you know, uncomfortable for me. Like, what do these girls want from me?
Yeah.
So they're the ones that we really work for. And before any workshop, Chris and I do a meditation together, and we really just ask for, you know, just the power to like just channel like whatever you need to say to these girls, like just come through us, work through us. And sometimes, you know, Chris or I will say something and we'll finish the workshop and be like, where did that come from? And it's like, I don't know, but it's obviously what had to be said. So, you know, that's genuinely what we're there for, just to hold space for these girls to heal whatever they can, to grow in whatever way they need to. Yeah, and just to start thinking about that level of awareness, of consciousness around how they're living their lives, essentially.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you trust in that moment for what those girls need for that to come through. And it's not just a, you know, pre-organized schedule where you roll up and run the girls through 3 modules and see you later. Like it's really heartfelt work, and it's that resonates with people. It's that opens the doors. It's that heart that you put into your work that breaks down those barriers, that allows this deep healing to occur, you know.
Yeah.
It's so important. What would you like to see change in our schooling system, or what would you like to see, you know, to change either in the schooling system or just in society in general, in terms of benefiting the next generation of our women?
I think that the schooling system, and I have to choose my words carefully, I just think that the schooling system is really antiquated. I think that there's just a big focus, and I'm not disputing, yeah, it's so important to read and to write and to be able to do basic maths. But where's the lessons on how to be a decent person? Where's the conversation around, you know, doing things that fulfill you, that bring you joy, that make you happy? Where's the lesson on social skills, on etiquette, on, you know, look someone in the eye when you're talking to them and shake someone's hand firmly? And we can say, oh, that's a parent's job, you know, to do that. But the reality is that's not happening. So whose responsibility is this? Is it the parents? Is it the teachers? And while we're all pointing fingers, these basic life lessons are falling through the cracks. And it's just, I wonder if we need a reshaping of the curriculum. We know that mental health is an issue, but what are we doing about it in terms of a schooling curriculum? Like, we know that mental health is a massive, massive issue in society. So maybe something needs to shift, you know, at a school level to support this. You know, how can we spot early signs of mental health issues? And this is stuff that we cover in our workshops. How do we support our friend who is having a bad day? How do we ask for help? How do we remove the shame and the stigma from mental health, from not being okay? These are all things that I would love to see. And I guess we can't wait for the school system to change. So this is where we turn to families and say, you need to be having these conversations. Wherever it is, on the drive to school, at the dinner table, on, you know, a weekend walk with the family, open these conversations. And the younger we start with our children, the more second nature it's going to be. I'm so excited to see friends of mine and people like you, Josh, like raising this next generation of conscious, aware, like humans. It's so exciting to me. Like, imagine if we've been able to learn this in our 30s, the power of the mind and the power of word and energy and all of this amazing, you know, quantum stuff. I'm just so excited to see the power of your children, of this generation coming up, knowing the power of meditation and knowing, it's just so exciting. So got to start somewhere. If it's not going to happen in the school system, then we need to take responsibility for it in our own homes.
100%. And I went through a stage in my 20s where I guess I had my eyes open to a few things, and I saw, you know, learned a lot about the world and a lot of the things that were going on. And I got really cynical for a little while. But I think once you have children, you have no choice but to become part of the solution. You know, you see things that worry you. You can see it all you want. It's not going to change your children's future. So you start to really hone in on your path and obviously setting them up for their, you know, so they can navigate whatever they need to in the future. But, you know, also playing our part now and what we do.
Yeah.
I know we've discussed this before. Do you feel like, as a society, the way that we approach depression and anxiety is fundamentally broken? Because the issue I have with it is that we are put in this box where you're either okay or you're sick and you've got anxiety and depression. And it's like, if you get sick, then you can sort of go to the doctor and get medication. Or do you think we really need to be changing the way that we look at depression and anxiety, that these are things that everyone experiences on different levels of a spectrum, and that
100%.
to some degree it's normal, but this is how we deal with it? And then, of course, you know, as things get worse, there's different levels of support. Because I think that stigma and that label is really holding people from really wanting to identify as that person.
I'm really glad that you've brought this up, because we have had this conversation before. And even last night we were doing an anxiety webinar, and we posed the question, should you tell your child that they are suffering from anxiety? And I know for me, when I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, that label it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it's a bit of relief, like, oh, there is something like going on here that I can address. But then as I learned to, as I equip myself with tools and strategies on how to cope with this, it's always this overhanging cloud. If I have a few bad days in a row, I get almost this panic, like, oh, and maybe it's my depression coming back. And that's such an awful way to live your life. And that's why, when we work with parents, I think that it's really important, the language that you use, and to disassociate from that with the language we use. For example, like, you don't have anxiety, you're feeling anxious in this moment.
And I love it. That's the critical part. It's not you're not part of it as your identity. It's not you. It's something you're experiencing. You can feel hot, you can feel cold. It doesn't mean you are hot or you are cold. And I
feel quite conflicted, because as I've spoken to you about, I live my life now in a way that I don't identify with that person from 6 years ago that was experiencing anxiety and depression. Yes, I have days where I'm overwhelmed and I bite my nails, but so does everyone, but I feel like I have to keep revisiting this story. Not I have to. I feel I choose to keep revisiting this story, because that is part of the work that I do, that I share that story with the girls, but I don't associate with that person anymore. And I think that's the danger in being overly quick to label and to pigeonhole our young people, or people in society in general, with certain mental health issues. Yes, there are, the statistics are staggering, the people who are experiencing this, but can we not instead focus on the tools and strategies and support? And like you said, recognizing that there's various degrees of these emotions that we can all experience at different times.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, and I just 100%. Think for young people, it can be so, it can be a detriment to label them really quickly with a diagnosis. And please don't get me wrong, like, we've had parents who've come in crying that they've tried everything, and I say, yes, you need help, you need to see a psychologist. Like, we're early intervention and prevention, there's only so much that I can support you with. I think there's definitely a place for psychologists, psychiatrists, medication.
Of course.
I see the value in that. But, when we're talking about young children, they're so malleable. We can equip them with tools and strategies. As a 4-year-old who's school refusal, doesn't want to go to kinder. Okay, what's the root cause here? Are they afraid of leaving you? Is something going on there? Do they not like the food that they're getting there? So instead of just labeling them, they've got anxiety, they refuse to go to kinder. Like, let's take some more responsibility. Let's take some more accountability as our role as adults in society, and teach these skills and strategies so that these kids can be empowered over how they're feeling.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that, if this parents could take anything away, it's that there's always root causes to behavior, and it's just that sometimes standing back and having a bit of a look at what's showing up can really help you to navigate other ways around to solve some of these problems that are coming up. And again, it all leads back to that connection, that vulnerability, and having those conversations, fostering that relationship.
And the biggest one that we see is like I said before, parents mirroring onto their kids. And that's a really tough pill to swallow for a parent, to be like, oh, wow, my kid's experiencing anxiety because I'm rubbing off on them. That's really challenging for any of us to admit, because I know we always share a story of how my anxiety rubbed off on Chris, who wouldn't say an anxious person at all. And that was really... there was a lot of guilt around that. I was feeling a lot of guilt around the fact that my stuff was rubbing off onto her. So it can be challenging for parents to step back, like you said, and look for the root cause as to why their child is experiencing what they're experiencing.
Yeah. And I know with my own my own family, my own extended family, friends, close friends. I think that the typical, it's a bit of a side note, but I think the typical stay-at-home mom that has, 2 to 3 to 4 kids, when they're in that close proximity all the time, the mother provides that caring role, or the father, it's either either, what I tend to see is that they become so sort of energetically joined that the mirroring is intensified, that it really becomes this, you could explain it in a number of ways. You could explain it with energy. You could say that it's a joined consciousness. You could say that it's, a lot of different things, but it becomes really, really clear with the children that the everything gets mirrored from the mother to the children in high intensity. It at times becomes a self-feeding cycle, because of course, the mother will get run down.
Yeah.
She'll start to get stressed. She needs to get stuff done, and then the children feed off that, and then it just becomes one big energetic cycle. And it doesn't matter, like in life, this is hard to see when you're in it. It's not until we take that time to step back and go, all right, what's actually going on here? All of the work that I do teaches people to take responsibility for everything going on. And I think it's powerful when you step back and go, if I was creating this 100% by myself, what would that mean? How would this be happening? And it's powerful when you do that.
Absolutely.
It does two things, and the same if there was a daughter and a father and they wanted to repair that relationship, it's not until the father takes full responsibility for the way the daughter's showing up that energetic judgment is released, that energetic blame is released, and that connection can actually take place. So
yeah,
I guess it's taking us back to healing 101, which is everything comes back to us. And as parents, that's definitely a good place to start if you want to start working on that relationship.
Yeah, 100%. I think I don't have any kids of my own, and I think taking extreme ownership of how things have played out for me over my life was challenging enough. So I can't imagine the work ahead of a parent who has decided that they want to do this radical healing, and see how they're showing up as a parent and what's being mirrored onto their child. I'm sure that would be a really, massive undertaking, but at the same time so exciting, because just like when you decide to take accountability for how your own life has played out, it's like, okay, well, yeah, there's a few things there that I've, that's not ideal, but now that I recognize that it's all me, how exciting is that? Like, what's the future going to look like? How can I use that now to my advantage? What can I put out? What can I start thinking, feeling, being, doing to get things now that I'm aware to go in a way that I want them to go? So I guess I would just urge parents that while it might seem daunting and overwhelming and challenging, there's no better gift that you can give yourself or your children than to start doing the work and to start showing up as the best version of yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I love that. That's the key message, I think, for parents. And again, it comes back to, to put it in another set of words, if you're seeing issues with your children, those issues play a part in your evolution, and those issues are there for a reason, to show you what needs to be done. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but that's, we say ignorance is bliss. If you really want to make an impact, if you really want to change your life, your child's life, that's where it starts. It starts with us as parents.
Definitely. Yeah.
100%. All right. Before we touch base on what programs you've got coming up, is there anything else jumping out at you that you want to share?
This has been great. I love our chats.
Yeah.
Always get so much value out of our time together. I think it's nice to be surrounded by people who are sort of on your level and who you can have open and honest conversation with, who challenge you to be better, who stretch you, you know, who stretch your container. Yeah. And I guess that's what we're trying to provide for our community, a place where we can hold each other accountable. We can seek support, be vulnerable, share, you know, be in that space where our common goal is to support our young girls.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%. And you're big on fostering that. You're big on fostering that relationship with parents and children, teenagers.
Yeah.
I see a lot of your lives that you're doing. You're talking to parents. You're talking to the girls. It's, you know, one doesn't stop here and the other starts. It's all intertwined in the work that you do, and it's so important.
Exactly. You know, like we say to our teachers and our parents, like, we're on your team. We're all on the same team here. It's
100%.
not us doing a better job than you or whatever. It's how can we support you? We're on the same team.
100%.
Yeah.
So obviously, for anyone that wants to check you guys out, bigsisterexperience.com.
bigsisterexp.com.
bigsisterexp.com. Obviously, you're on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. The action happens on Facebook and Instagram for the
Facebook and Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We also have a Facebook group that we've just started for parents. It's called Parents of Tween and Teen Girls. And that's just a really nice little closed community for parents to support one another and, yeah, get involved in our community.
Okay. Is that something you're inviting anyone who's
anyone who is the parent of a tween or teen girl, come on in to the community. We can we share some stuff and like I said, it's just a safe space for parents who are experiencing challenges or wins or whatever it might be with their tween or teen girls, to seek support, be part of a community who gets it.
Okay. So obviously that's a private group that they can have private confidential discussions in there.
Yeah.
Only the people in the group are going to see it. How do they find that? Can they search for that?
Yeah, they can just search for it. Parents of Tween and Teen Girls. It's cool. A closed group. You can just request to join and then we'll approve you into that. Okay,
awesome. Now, what's coming up? When all this lockdown's gone?
Yes. So we just can't wait to get back into the live workshops. We had a few schools have to postpone, obviously because of the situation. So we're looking forward to jumping back into that. We've also got some funding recently and we're hoping for more next week for our online program, for schools to come on board with that. Usually our online course was just for parents who wanted their daughter to go through the online course, but now we've sort of bundled that up so that schools can get involved and offer that. So we've got one school who's offered it just to 1 year level, another school who's bought it for all their girls. So that'll be rolling out over the next few months. But yeah, we just can't wait to get back in front of the girls. The hugs at the end of the workshop, that's what we live for.
Awesome. Yeah. So you'll be announcing mother-daughter workshops, father-daughter workshops.
Yeah, definitely. Towards, it'll probably be towards the end of the year now by the time we are allowed back out, and just so that we can have gatherings over 10 people or whatever it is. So
of course, yeah, once it's doable.
Follow on the social pages. We're very, very active on our socials. So if you are interested, follow along and you'll be kept up to date.
Okay, great. And the last thing I wanted to mention, how do people, right, someone's listening to this, it's really resonated, they want to get you into their school. Mm-hmm. How does a parent go about in doing this?
Yeah, the best way is just to get in touch with us directly, so we can have a conversation about where your school is, what sort of issues you're seeing. And then we'll work together to get in touch with the school wellbeing team and try and roll that out for you. But yeah, if you want us at the school, the best way is to get in touch with us direct. And we find that parents are our best advocates. You know, some of the most bookings come from a parent who is really passionate about what we do, because I can go to a school and say, this program's amazing and you need to get us in, but that's very different than a parent going and saying, we really need this program in for our girls. So if you are resonating, get in touch, and we'd love to have a conversation about, some magic we can work together.
Yep. And the age groups for the in-school workshops are?
So we do grades 4, 5, and 6 for primary school, and then high school.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for joining. I look forward to seeing you getting back out and about. I know you're obviously, in the meantime, your online work is amazing, and you know, easily accessible for anyone who needs to do it. So,
and thank you for the role that you've played in my journey. As you said before, we are very good friends, and I'm forever grateful for your support and guidance and challenges and questions, prodding and poking along the way. So yeah, I'm really grateful to you.
No worries. Thank you. You're most welcome. I just love the work that you're doing, and I love watching it unfold, and I look forward to seeing, you know, what happens when you get out of this. You know, I think this has changed our society forever, what we've just gone through in terms of this event. And I think there's, you know, ever increasing demand for what you're doing. So
thank you. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks, Josh.
All right. Big love. Talk to you soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.